Hi, everybody. Pete Pistone here for Midwest Racing Central. Today, well, one of the more popular tracks here in our area of the country, down in Morris, Illinois, Grundy County Speedway. They are already off and running for their 2026 season. And let's bring from Grundy County, Steve Bechtel with us to tell us what's ahead here in this coming season. Steve, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm great, Pete. How are you doing?
Doing well. Appreciate the time. Looking forward to what's happening down there and getting down to see you guys this summer. I know like all of us here in the Midwest, the weather's not been great, but you guys have gotten 2 shows in already. Tell everybody what's happened so far at your racetrack down there in Morris, Steve.
Yeah, we've sold a lot of hot chocolate, so I guess that's a plus for the concession stand. We had the Spring Classic a couple of weeks ago. That's kind of like a holdover from the Rockford Speedway days, and Big Eight Series was there. Some of our weekly divisions, some of our NASCAR divisions, and then this past Saturday was our weekly opener, you could say, with some of our divisions. So yeah, it's great to maybe kind of get out in front of everybody and get some racing in and get some stuff under our belt. And like I said, it's been cold, but it's just great to be back after a long winter.
Well, you guys have done in the last couple of years a lot of renovation down there at that racetrack. Give everybody a little bit of an overview of what's new if they've not been down to Grundy County, Steve, in the last couple of years.
Yeah, the last probably 5 years, we kind of have like a new team in place, and they really kind of made an emphasis on just sprucing the place up some. You know, a lot of paint, and then the last 5 years, we redid the bathrooms. I talked with our general manager Joe, and he went to the RPM meetings down in Daytona, and he said he heard an interesting quote, and he said the man of the house normally decides where they want to go and kind of do some of their entertainment stuff. So if they're going to go to the racetrack, but the woman decides if they're going to go back. So bathrooms was one of our things where we completely redid all of our bathrooms. Did some grandstand kind of upkeep maintenance over the winter here to make it a little bit more handicap accessible with some areas. And like I said, just a lot of we got a new scoreboard, new lights on the racetrack. We went all LED lights about 5 years ago throughout the whole fairground property, so it's well lit, compared to what it used to be. Got a full backstretch of billboards, so just anything that really kind of needed an update. Other than the track, that's a big one. Everybody would love a repave, as would we, but that's just a little bit pricey for us to do that. But yeah, we've really kind of hit every other aspect of the place, trying to make it a little bit more fan friendly and just more appealing to people to come out.
Now, you haven't touched the oval track, but you did put in a figure eight track a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I
What was
guess
that
that's
process like?
yeah, that was, so we were talking about that, probably again, a big expenditure to do that. We were probably talking about that about 5 years ago. And then I think, again, with Rockford Speedway closing, it kind of, maybe saw some of the people on the board that were a little hesitant to spend that money to want to go forward with it. And it's just been huge to be able to do bus races and trailer races and all the novelty stuff that we do. And those, as a longtime race fan, it I guess it's always going to boggle my mind to, I could watch a late model feature with Eddie Hoffman and Larry Schuler side by side, or exchanging the lead 20 times in 20 laps, and that doesn't get the pop that a bus does, getting T-boned or flipped over, or a trailer race stuff. But we try to, we got the race fans, and we got what I call derby, type fans that just live for that stuff. And the proof's in the pudding when you look at the grandstand area, how many people are for that. So we've had a lot of fun with the bus races and trailer races and night of thrills type events, just stuff that's never really happened at the Grundy County Speedway. So it's nice to see a demo derby and a whole bunch of other things that really, back in the day they had some demo derbies, but it's been quite a while since we've had something like that at the track.
Well, again, you mentioned Rockford Speedway, which again still tears my heart out that it's not there any longer. But some things have migrated to your track, including the Bahama Brackets, which was always a fun event when we did it at Rockford. How's that gone since you moved it down to Grundy, Steve?
That's been great. When you work at the track, or like I do, working at Ileana before I closed, and Grundy, you don't, it's you're working, so it's kind of hard to sit back and kind of enjoy something. So me going to the Bahama brackets at the end of the year with my friends was my favorite event to do. So when it came up, is again definitely sad losing Rockford, because that was my little getaway to let go to Spring Classic, go to Short Track Nationals, hit up the big shows and stuff. But no, we had a good relationship with David and Sue Deary up there, and we just talked to David, and we didn't want stuff to end up there. It's I grew up at Raceway Park and lost that track. I grew up at Indiana Speedway, lost that track. It's tough when your home track closes down. So we kind of got some of their divisions, gave them a home, to run with us. We brought the Spring Classic over there, the Bahama brackets, the Goblin 250 Enduro. Yeah, but the brackets are, like, to me, it's the most fun event. It's just like a low key weekend of you're on the track Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's growing, and like I said, we're really looking forward to kind of get people back to the numbers that it used to be, at the Rockford Speedway.
Steve, you mentioned the term growing up. I'm like you. I grew up at all those racetracks, Rockford, Raceway Park, Ileana, up at Lake Geneva, which isn't far from me because I'm in the northern suburbs of Chicago. What about today's youth, the generation that we're trying to hand off to motorsports? What do you guys do at Grundy to get the kids involved?
Yeah, it's tough to sometimes to get the kids engaged. Like, to us it was just being at the track was enough. And now it just seems like it's like a different kind of generation and technology, and everybody would rather be playing on their phone than going to the racetrack and stuff like that. So we try to give different options to stuff. We think obviously a bus race and a trailer race that appeals to kids. Monster truck show, we had one last year for the first time, and that was just a complete home run to do that. We have a person that former racer, and she's on the fair board, but she'll run racing for kids. She does a lot of stuff at the track. We do a kids night where we give away 100 plus brand new bicycles. She does a back to school night where it used to be three 400 backpacks given away, and now it's 300 400 backpacks filled with school supplies. So that gets the kids want to come and do that. We do the on track autograph parties where I remember first time I, snuck onto Raceway Park, when a friend of mine won a feature, and I was like, ooh, I'm on the track thinking it's a big deal. But as time goes by, you don't even think about it. But to some people, we get to go on the racetrack. That is so awesome. So, we get all the cars on the racetrack before the races start and let everybody go out there and meet the drivers, and everybody has handouts, giveaway stuff. So we just try to make it more interactive, for kids to come and include them. We do a kids co-pilot program where we pass out ballots every night, and they get a driver, and if that driver wins, then they get a matching trophy that the driver gets. So we're always just trying to throw as many little kid friendly things. And it's like, if you can, I'm here today because I went as a kid, grew up 2 blocks from Raceway Park, went every night that I possibly could, and I'm an adult and now I'm here. So if we can try to hook them, maybe with different, maybe it's not the racing that hooks a 10-year-old, but if we can give them some other reasons to come out, then they see the stuff, and it's like, man, this is pretty cool. Can we go back? So we just try to throw, as we're always evolving. We're always trying to throw more stuff at them, and it's definitely difficult, but like I said, we just try to throw as much as we can out there.
Yeah, I think that's great. So when you think about Grundy County Speedway, for me, it's always been sort of the signature super late model track. And you mentioned some of the names there: Eddie Hoffman, Larry Schuler, Dave Weltmeyer, Tom Jones. We know super late model racing in the Midwest on pavement is a little different these days, but you guys put together what you're calling the summer six pack, and the first one's going to be Saturday, and we'll talk about that. What was sort of the genesis behind that, Steve, and getting in line with the other tracks to try to get some sort of uniform rules for super late model racing here in the Midwest?
Well, we started working with them with the alliance up in Wisconsin. We knew that we had to be on the same rules to maybe try to get some of these guys to come down and race with us, and we just kind of wanted to conform to that. And that really, I think, has worked out well. We were pretty much the only track in the Midwest that was running super late models on a nightly basis, and it just got to as well as anybody in the sport that the cost of a super late model has just skyrocketed. It's almost impossible to run them every single week. We saw that with car counts. We saw that with if you had an accident and you took out 3 4 cars, it's not like the 70s or excuse me, the 80s to where these guys are back the next week. Sometimes it was, they'd be out a month, 2 months, it might be their season might be over. So we've been gradually cutting back, from 20 nights to 16 to 14. And we just kind of thought, you know what, let's just, let's kind of do like what the Dells is doing. And Slinger kind of has their own little thing. And let's run a deal to where, we're going to maybe cut our races in half, but they're going to be, more money. They're going to be more laps. It's going to be a bigger deal. We waited until everybody's schedule is out, and we wanted to make sure we scheduled around everybody else to try to get some cars. And it's been pretty good. We've talked to a lot of people. We got Tommy White, who's a long time official in the area for decades. He's been helping us with this, and it seems like we got some. We expect to see more cars. Basically, is what we're going to say. Coming down the road, that a lot of people want to commit to it, but early in the season, cars aren't done yet. Some guys had some commitments, but we're happy with. Like I said, we got 22 cars signed up for this Saturday, and like I said, we're hoping to get more as the summer continues with that.
That's great. So that's the Wayne Carter Classic this week. Five more races. One of them a Thursday night before the weekend at Chicagoland Speedway. I would expect to get a lot of race fans. Hopefully, Steve, got to spill over to see some super late model racing that Thursday night.
Yeah, that was the reason we wanted to do it. Usually our fair is Fourth of July weekend, and for it's been like that for years. And we actually switched the week of that, so we didn't have nothing going on. We thought, it's tough to go against, the Fourth of July holiday, and it's definitely going to be tough to go against NASCAR. So we knew we weren't going to run, Friday or Saturday, but then. Thought came up. Let's try to do Thursday. There's really no other specials going on. Maybe we can get some guys to come down. We are a NASCAR track, so we fingers crossed got some stuff to hopefully announce down the road with some NASCAR people maybe going to be there helping us out with some stuff. And we like I said, there's a lot more that's going to be announced coming from that race tour. We're really excited for that 100 lapper.
We'll look forward to that. So you are a NASCAR track. I'll ask you sort of how that's working out, and then your regular divisions for those that are going to come out on a regular Friday night. What are you guys running in 2026?
Yeah, NASCAR. We last year was our first year, and we kind of got a late start on it. And we think it's a plus. We with the benefits we get from NASCAR, kind of the overage to where people are finding out about us because they're on the NASCAR website and see that we're a home track with them. So the benefits we think the drivers are happy with that. We changed up divisions this year because the super late models weren't going to technically run enough nights to be eligible for the NASCAR points. So we have big eight style late models. We have our Mid American Sportsmen, our street stocks, and our pure stocks that are going to be NASCAR divisions. And then with Rockford closing and trying to give some of those drivers a home, we got the High School Racing Association. We got, like we said, we added the Big Eight style late models. We got Sixers. We got the Crown Vics, which seem to be blowing up across the country. We got mini cups. We got the Midwest Pavement Midgets that are coming in. I think 6-7 times this year. We got four enduros. So we have a lot of classes, probably more than anybody else, similar to kind of how Rockford did it. But it also gives us options to where we can mix stuff up and instead of our street stocks running 20 nights, now they can run 14, and we can when they're off we can run our Crown Vics, and it lets people have a life to where they can plan a vacation or get married or just do normal, go to the lake for a weekend because we're not running. So again, we have a lot of classes, but it's nice to be able to mix them up and give people nights off.
So the last point when you talk about your weekly program, you talked about concessions and bathrooms and those kinds of things. Sort of what's your philosophy? I mean, starting on time, getting people home at a decent hour. How do you guys kind of go about that, Steve, up there at Grundy?
Yeah, I think we're like every other racetrack. I mean, for years we started at 8 o'clock, and a couple about probably five again with the new regime that kind of came in, we switched that to 7:30. The sooner we can get start, the sooner we can get them out of there. Fridays are tough when everybody's working. They're really tough, at the beginning of the season. In the end, when kids are in school, you get kids that are up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to school, and sometimes they're falling asleep in the stands at 9 o'clock. So we want to run a quick program. just again, make it as entertaining as possible, and have the next race lined up and ready to go. Or for our features, the winners getting interviewed on the front stretch, and our whole feature field is lined up on the back stretch, just ready to go. So just keep things moving. Try to make it entertaining. Try to like I said, just appeal to people that if you had a long day and races are over at 10:15, they can get out. But then it's also early enough to where if you want to go in the what me and you I'm sure did, you want to go in the pits and sit in race cars and talk to drivers and stuff like that, then you also have the option to kind of go do that as well.
That's key for sure. Well, I appreciate you giving us some time. It's good to see you. Wishing nothing but the best this year at Grundy County. We look forward to covering everything here at the Midwest Central Racing, and appreciate seeing you. And look forward to seeing you this summer.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, definitely. Hope you guys can, you and your group. I know you guys do some outings and stuff, so we'd love to see you at Grundy County Speedway this year.
Look forward to it. That is Steve Bechtel, Grundy County Speedway. Big racing weekend coming up. Doubleheader weekend, actually. They're going to race Friday with their weekly show. And then, as we mentioned, super late model Saturday for the Wayne Carter Classic. I'm Pete Pistone. We'll see you next time right here on Midwest Racing Central today.